And welcome everyone to the Real Leaders Podcast with Keys from keynote speakers here at the Agents of Change Summit. I'm your host, Kevin Edwards. Joining us today is Margaret Laws, the President and CEO of Hopelab. Margaret, thanks for being with us today.
Thanks for having me. Very excited to be here.
What brings Hopelab to the Agents of Change Summit?
Well, I actually was just talking about this earlier today. We started working this past year with the Rescue Agency in some work around teen vaping and found out about the Agents of Change conference, although I must say it's so consistent with the work we do at Hopelab that I'm thrilled to be here. I said just when I was up on stage that people talk about being silo busters and change agents, and that's really what we do at Hopelab.
So maybe explain how you are breaking down these silos to create this change.
Yeah, well, in a number of different ways. So Hopelab is a social innovation lab, and we build digital tools and technologies to improve health and well-being of teens and young adults. And we break down silos in a number of ways. So we work very much directly with kids as co-creators, with teens and young adults, really in lockstep through ideation to designing and building products to testing products. We also, I think, break down silos in sort of the disciplines. So we have behavioral scientists on staff, we have designers, human-centered design experts, and we have product managers and developers. And what we're doing is bringing those teams together so that we've got the power of human-centered design working with the power of research and evidence. And our process is a very iterative one where those disciplines work together and kind of fuse the sort of special powers of each of them so that we're gaining more than the sum of the parts. So,
okay, so you're gathering the information from the students in this example, and you have health professionals and practitioners on board to help with the digital product design. It's going in iterations. Maybe help us with an example for vaping, and what do you mean by digital products as well?
Yeah. So, the example I talked about today was for young people with cancer. We were trying to reduce depression, anxiety among young people who had just finished cancer treatment. We're doing work on loneliness and depression in college students. So again, it's a digital intervention to help them learn social connection skills. In the case of vaping, in any of the things that we do, we're focused on behavior change. So we're focused on helping young people find and be able to execute on a healthy behavior. So in the case of vaping, the work that Rescue's been doing has been really on trying to understand how do we move young people from a place where vaping feels like what they need to do to fit in, to be cool, to something that they make a choice not to do. And that's a powerful choice for them and a choice that can actually make them a better friend, a better family member, a stronger person. So the work we do really focuses on understanding why a young person is drawn to a behavior they're drawn to, whether that's a positive health behavior or a negative health behavior, and then trying to use a technology intervention, a digital intervention, to help them get from a challenging behavior to a positive behavior. We've done games, we've done apps, we've got a chat bot. So we'll use different technology modalities, but in most cases what we're doing is helping teach a skill or help a young person reframe the way they're thinking about or looking at a health behavior.
You're teaching kids these social connections. You're teaching kids to sustain their behavior change. What have these kids taught you?
We've learned a lot from the young people. So an example that I gave in my talk, which I think is a really interesting one, is we were working on an intervention for young people who'd gone through cancer treatment. And when we started thinking about different concepts, the concept that kept coming up was, well, they need to meet somebody in person just like them. And it's got to be an in-person human connection. And what we learned from the young people was that often they have people in their lives, their friends, their family members, and they're afraid to really talk about or express how they're feeling because those people already feel bad. And what they don't want is another person feeling bad about them that they now have to manage. What they want is support. And so it's an easy example of having a chatbot that can be non-judgmental but provide them some kind of supportive ways to think about where they are, to think about gratitude, to think about mindfulness, to learn those skills can be really helpful. It doesn't take away the importance of the people in their lives. It just gives them another alternative, whether it's because it's the middle of the night and there isn't anybody available, or whether it's because they're really feeling bad and they don't want to burden their parents with that. So that's kind of one example. I can offer more, but
well, Margaret, the the theme I'm getting from this is you're using technology. It's almost counterintuitive when I think about it, but it really works. Technology to bridge the gap to human connections.
Exactly.
I think is very interesting. Now, in terms of AI, as it gets better and better and better, avatars coming into play. How do you see this technology evolving in years to come?
Yeah. Well, I love that you just said what you said, because what I will often say is we get to young people online because that's where they are, but often what we're doing is moving them to a place where they have more satisfying offline connections. So a lot of the things we're working on we're using the technology to help them find their way out in the world to a positive social connection. You know, it's really interesting, the wild world of AR and augmented reality, virtual reality. Look, we're a social innovation lab. So one of the things we get to do is try to do things that are a little bit on the experimental cutting edge. So start to think about, what are these new technologies offering that can be powerful for young people? So, you know, what we do is we try to keep up. It's hard, but many people in this conference are trying to do it, trying to keep up with where technology is going and how young people are basically reinventing it. So today, Adam York from Snapchat spoke, and he talked about how it's young people who have really molded and shaped that platform and have turned Snapchat into what it is by the ways that they picked up this tool, the camera-first tool, and started using it to connect in a very visual way, using features, using augmented reality. And so I think the question you asked initially was, how do we let young people teach us this? And a big part of what we're focused on at Hopelab is, how can we have deep enough, frequent enough, targeted enough contact with young people so that they can actually teach us how they're using and how we might use technologies to help them achieve better health.
Help them achieve better health in the future for years to come. These are decisions that you're making today that will impact tomorrow, what we deem as a real leader. So Margaret, the last question I have for you today is, what is your definition of a real leader?
I think I'm going to actually pull off of the conversation we were just having and say a real leader is somebody who has both the intelligence and humility to learn from the people he or she is leading and the users of the things they're creating.
Great example, Margaret. It's been a pleasure having you on the show today. Margaret Laws, I'm Kevin Edwards, asking you to go out there and always, folks, keep it real. Thanks, Margaret.
Thanks, Kevin. Great to meet you.
All right, folks, and thanks for watching this episode of the Real Leaders Podcast. If you want to learn more from leaders like this interview and you just can't get enough, go online to real-leaders.com/subscribe and get your first magazine for free using coupon code podcast25. That's podcast25, getting your first magazine for free on a 1-year subscription. See you there.